This book, The Alchemy of Happiness, is written by Imam Ghazali, who was the Persian philosopher, one of the most prominent theologian, jurist, and mystic. He wrote many books. In his book, The Alchemy of Happiness, Al-Ghazali begins by writing that he who knows himself is truly perfect and happy. Self-knowledge consists in realizing that we have heart or spirit, which is absolutely perfect, but which has been covered with dust by the accumulation of passion derived from the body and its animal nature. There are 8 chapters in this book. Now we shall begin reading the book. Chapter 1. The Knowledge of Self. Knowledge of self is the key to the knowledge of God. According to the sayings, he who knows himself knows God. And as it is written in the Quran, we will show them our signs in the world and in themselves, that the truth may be manifest to them. Now nothing is nearer to you than yourself, and if you know not yourself, how can you know anything else? If you say, I know myself, meaning your outward shape, body, face, limbs, and so forth, such knowledge can never be a key to the knowledge of God, nor if your knowledge is to the only extent so far that when you are hungry, you eat, and when you are angry, you attack someone. But real self-knowledge consists in knowing the following things. What are you in yourself, and from where you have come? Where are you going, and for what purpose you have come? And in what is your real happiness and misery consist? Some of your attributes are those of animals, some of devils, and some of angels. And you have to find out to which of these attributes are accidental and which are essential. Till you know this, you cannot find out where your real happiness lies. The occupation of animals is eating, sleeping, and fighting. Therefore, if you are an animal, busy yourself in these things. Devils are busy in stirring up mischief. If you belong to them, do their work. Angels contemplate the beauty of God and are entirely free from animals' quality. If you are of angelic nature, then strive towards their origin, that you may know and contemplate the Most High. The first step to self-knowledge is to know that you are composed of an outward shape called the body and an inward entity called the heart or soul. By heart, I do not mean the piece of flesh situated in the left of our bodies, but that which uses all other faculties as its instruments and servants. In truth, it does not belong to the visible world, but to the invisible, and has come into this world as a traveler visits a foreign country for the sake of merchandise, and will presently return to its native land. It is the knowledge of this entity and its attributes which is the key to the knowledge of God. Some ideas of the reality of the heart or spirit may be obtained by a man closing his eyes and forgetting everything around except his individuality. He will thus also obtain a glimpse of the unending nature of that individuality. Too close inquiry, however, into the essence of spirit is forbidden by the law. In the Quran, it is written, they will question you concerning the spirit. Say, the spirit comes by the command of my Lord. Thus much is known of it, that it is an indivisible essence belonging to the world of decrees, and that is not from everlasting, but created. An exact philosophical knowledge of the spirit is not a necessary preliminary to walking in the path of the religion, but comes rather as the result of self-discipline and perseverance in that path. As it is said in the Quran, those who strive in our way, verily we will guide them to the right paths. For the carrying on of the spiritual warfare by which the knowledge of oneself and of God is to be obtained, the body may be figured as a kingdom and the soul as its king, and the different senses and faculties as constituting an army. Reason may be called the prime minister, passion the revenue collector, and anger the police officer. Under the gaze of collecting revenue, passion is continually prone to plunder on its own account, while resentment is always inclined to the harshness and extreme severity. Both of these, the revenue collector and the police officer, have to be kept in due subordination to the king, but not to be killed or excelled, as they have their own proper functions to fulfill. But if passion and resentment master reason, the ruin of the soul infallibly ensues. A soul which allows its lower faculties to dominate the higher is as one who should hand over an angel to the power of a dog. The cultivation of demonic, animal, or angelic qualities results in the production of corresponding characters, which in the day of judgment will be manifested in visible shapes. The sensual appearing as swine, the ferocious as dogs and wolves, and the pure as angels. The aim of moral discipline is to purify the heart from the rust of passion and resentment, till, like a clear mirror, it reflects the light of God. Someone may here object, but if man has been created with animal and demonic qualities as well as angelic, how are we to know that the latter constitute his real essence, while the former are merely accidental and transitory? To this I answer that the essence of each creature is to be sought in that which is the highest in it and peculiar to it. Thus, the horse and the ass are both burden-bearing animals, but the superiority of the horse to the ass consists in its being adopted for use in the battles. If it fails in this, it becomes degraded to the rank of burden-bearing animals. Similarly, with man, the highest faculty in him is the reason, which fits him for the contemplation of God. If this predominates in him, when he dies, he leaves behind him all tendencies to passion and resentment and becomes capable of association with angels. As regards his mere animal qualities, man is inferior to many animals, but reason makes him superior to them. As it is written in the Quran, to man we have subjected all things in the earth.